Hey guys, Pie Guy Rules here, and HBO Max has been out for about 2.5 months. I think that's plenty of time for the service to establish itself, so let's see if HBO Max is worth getting and keeping in mid-August 2020. Because there are so many services available out there, and things like Netflix and Disney Plus are doing so well, it is very important that we take a critical look at HBO Max because although it is very new on the market, it is still charging a very premium price for what it's offering. And I feel that even if it's offering some things that are worth checking out, if the overall service isn't very good, your money is probably better spent elsewhere. And as a reminder, you will see these graphics pop up at various points in the review where I feel that things are particularly relevant to these demographics, those being families, including young kids and parents, casual consumers of media, people who watch plenty of things on streaming services but aren't particularly critical about what they're watching and just want something to unwind with at the end of the day, and pop culture junkies like myself who adore television and very much care about what they choose to watch. HBO Max is available on iOS and Android phones and tablets, Android TV and Apple TV, as well as Samsung TV, but not the LG content store, and the video game consoles PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It is also available to be cast with a Chromecast or with Apple AirPlay. And of course, it has a website where you can watch it on your computer. I have to mention that because apparently not every single streaming service believes in having a website that you could watch the content on. Notably, it does not have a Roku or Fire Stick app, which is a big disappointment because I know a lot of people rely on their Fire Sticks or Rokus to watch all of their content. Warner Media also has a very helpful webpage with info about HBO Max, which includes all of the ways to watch it. And when it comes to features, a lot of the same ones from Disney Plus, Netflix, and most other streaming services are already included. There's a continue watching option to pick up where you left off, a list to add shows you want to watch later, closed captioning in many different styles, the ability to watch on 3 different screens simultaneously, and you can make multiple profiles, including kids' profiles, which are remarkably well set up. You use a pin to change the settings so that the kid can't just go in and change things themselves. Additionally, the adult is given the option to decide what level of rating the child should have access to, giving much more control to the parent, and it's a good thing that HBO Max has this because of course it features HBO content which can get rather explicit with its adult themes. Why, I've even heard Game of Thrones has a coffee cup in it. Other neat features of the interface are that when you search for something in the search bar, it will not only give you shows and movies that are relevant, but also individual episodes of shows, which is not a standard feature on all streaming services, but is super convenient. And there's also these little featured blurbs sprinkled about every so often that gives you a button with unique text to entice you to click on it. In terms of content organization, the homepage has a scroll bar highlighting various featured content, continue watching, and then also a bunch of content organized into categories that are ever changing. There's a side tab that has things organized by shows, movies, originals, and things added, things leaving, and coming soon. There's also a bunch of genres, and finally, a few categories sorted by brands. Since I reviewed Disney Plus, I will compare it to that. Firstly, I think having a section for newly added things is great. Originals are not the only new things that come to streaming services, and it's very convenient to have a spot where I can see what's been added recently. I'm also very happy to see Coming Soon be in its own dedicated section. This is something I wanted in Disney Plus and even suggested in my video. That being said, it hides its featured brands further down, and there's so much text on the sidebar that you have to have a scroller just to see everything, which just looks so much less sleek than Disney Plus's very few featured categories on the main page. Another issue, once you dig deeper into the menus, is that the categories are not very clear-cut. Perhaps I want to watch Summer Camp Island or Infinity Train, 2 shows that premiered and aired on Cartoon Network, except they're not in the Cartoon Network tab. So then surely HBO Max just doesn't have them, right? No, they're on HBO Max. They've just been rebranded as HBO Max Originals, because any new seasons they have will be airing on HBO Max. Which is fine, and there is a certain logic to that, but it's super confusing to anyone who doesn't automatically know they've rebranded these things. Then there's the originals. Now, HBO Max separates their originals into 2 categories. First, there is HBO Max Originals, but then there's also HBO Originals. Things that were exclusive to HBO, and if you've never had the channel in the past, are basically brand new to you. So that's nifty, but I'll be considering the HBO originals to be legacy content and the HBO Max to be new content just for the purposes of this video. So, in terms of what they have at the moment, there's a decent amount of content considering the service isn't that old, but it's not a lot of things. And in what I consider to be a pleasant surprise, most of what they have to offer in terms of originals are cartoons. Looney Tunes cartoons are a great continuation of the classics, and I think are something that any Looney Tunes fan would very much enjoy. Close Enough is a show about 30-somethings from regular show creator J.G. Quintel, which, while in my opinion not anything amazing, is still a very fun and enjoyable show that feels wonderfully refreshing from a lot of other adult animation. There's also Tig and Seek, Summer Camp Island, and Esme and Roy. 3 shows that I haven't seen, but from my understanding, skew young-ish in terms of demographics. The first part of Adventure Time Distant Lands, the BMO special, is out, and I was pleasantly surprised with it. I think most Adventure Time fans would certainly enjoy it, and even if you aren't one, you might still enjoy it because it's pretty standalone from the series. And by the time this video comes out, Infinity Train Book 3 will have either just been out or is about to come out, and if the other seasons are any indication, I'm sure that will be great as well. In terms of non-animated originals, you have The Not Too Late Show with Elmo, which is something that I'm sure little kids will enjoy, but as an older audience, I can't say that I got anything out of it personally. There's a few game show and reality shows, a documentary about Amy Schumer, oh boy. Even though Doom Patrol wasn't originally an HBO Max original, it is now, and it is certainly an interesting show, but definitely not for everyone. And a few other things. While I haven't seen every single show, I know from poking around the internet that there isn't quite anything on HBO Max that reaches that must-see TV level. That thing that's going to single-handedly sell the streaming service, like The Mandalorian or Stranger Things. And I think that things like Close Enough and Looney Tunes cartoons are certainly selling points for the service, but I just don't think there's anything that's caught on with the general public at large that's going to make everyone turn their heads and want to get HBO Max. However, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of things that were announced to be coming to HBO Max at some point in the future. A lot of new original shows and movies that have a little description about them and have been teased, but we don't know when these things are coming. So there's clearly big plans for HBO Max originals, and I wouldn't be surprised if they found themselves a must-see TV type show, but they just don't have it yet. In terms of legacy content that is on HBO Max but not an HBO Max original, when it comes to their movie selection, it's pretty solid. Under their Turner Classic Movies branding, they have a lot of old beloved movies like American Graffiti and 2001: A Space Odyssey. A personal favorite selection of mine and big selling point in my opinion is that the service has most of the Studio Ghibli films. Beautiful animated pieces that have a very unique tone and style to them. Of course, being an HBO project, this also has a lot of award-winning, hard-hitting documentaries. And it just has a random selection of movies, from things like Shazam to Detective Pikachu, also the brand new movie Scoob. There's a lot of great stuff on here, and don't worry if you're looking for bad movies, they also have those too. Something that's important to note is that movies do leave the service. For the most part, what I've seen is that these are films that Warner does not own and is rather licensing out. So the reason why they are leaving the service is most likely because they no longer have the rights to show you it. The most egregious example that I've seen being the removal of the Lego Movie and the Lego Batman movie, despite the fact that these are Warner Brothers films. It's entirely possible that they are still tied up in some licensing thing, but I don't know, it seems kind of odd to me, especially considering they were literally advertising this service with Lego Batman. And yet here it is, like 2 months after launch, and Lego Batman has left the service. But on the plus side, as far as I'm aware, I haven't seen them remove any TV shows. Plus, they do give you a heads up that movies are leaving, and it seems to be a relatively small amount of movies leaving each month. It's interesting to note that Justice League and Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice were actually supposed to be removed from the service. They were on the last chance section, but because fans were very upset at this, understandably, considering DC is allegedly one of the big things that they're promoting with HBO Max, it really didn't make sense for HBO Max to be removing these, so they decided to change their minds and leave them up until December. Moving on to the legacy television content, there are many critically acclaimed and beloved shows. Doctor Who, the original Powerpuff Girls, Rick and Morty, The Sopranos, The Wire, Sesame Street, Looney Tunes, Game of Thrones, Primal, and quite a bit more. These are incredibly high quality shows in a variety of genres for both young and old. Whether you like comedy, drama, kids shows, adult shows, sitcoms, animation, puppets, anime, talk shows, you name it. They really do have not just something for everyone, but something that has been critically acclaimed for everyone, no matter who you are or what you like. Which definitely gives it the edge on Disney Plus, which is lacking in things like anime and adult drama series. So the average quality of the content is, in my opinion, pretty high. But how much content is there? Looking at legacy television shows, there's about 564 of them. Breaking it out into categories, many of these shows come from HBO's existing library. Looking at their featured categories, Cartoon Network has 23 shows, 26 if you include Infinity Train, Summer Camp Island, and Samurai Jack, which HBO Max does not. There's 27 Crunchyroll anime, and there's only 9 Adult Swim shows. Now, generally speaking, the shows that they did choose to include here are pretty great. Rick and Morty, Death Note, Steven Universe, Adventure Time. These are popular picks from their respective categories. Do I think that they could have opened up the floodgates a little bit more and allowed more Cartoon Network shows, more Crunchyroll anime, and especially more Adult Swim shows? Absolutely. Especially considering Boomerang, the other Warner streaming service, has shows like Camp Lazlo already on it that are not offered on HBO Max. It should be pretty simple to just include Camp Lazlo here, but of course they'd rather you pay the extra $5 a month to go over to Boomerang just to watch that and a few other Cartoon Network originals. Which, in my opinion, is pretty scummy for a service that's already $15 a month and doesn't have any bundle with Boomerang. Similarly, Crunchyroll, it's its own streaming service with way more anime to choose from. It's cool that they're including it here, but there's a lot of anime out there, and it would have been cool to see there be a lot more selections here. That being said, they did add about 17 anime since the service began, so these are clearly going to be expanded upon. As far as I can tell, Cartoon Network and Adult Swim have not added any more shows in those categories since the service launched. They have come out with things like the Steven Universe movie, but no actual shows have been added, although there are definitely plans to bring at least Steven Universe Future in, well, the future. Looking at the DC category, although they have plenty of movies on there, as far as TV shows go, it's pretty much just Harley Quinn and Teen Titans, which are certainly very, very good cartoons. Also, Doom Patrol is there. But there are a ton of other shows like Justice League, Static Shock, Batman the Brave and the Bold, and like with the Cartoon Network examples mentioned earlier, a lot of these DC shows are on a streaming service. They're just on DC's own streaming service, which is another $8. Though there is a bundle with that, it's only if you had the DC streaming service before they started the bundle, so there's no chance at getting it now. It's a little weird to say that DC is prominently featured on 2 streaming services that you can't even conveniently bundle together, and in a way, it feels like HBO Max is a sampling of a lot of different streaming services. A bit of Crunchyroll, some Boomerang, some DC Universe, and it's all piled up on the corpse of HBO Go. And in some aspects, that's pretty cool. The fact that you can just pay for one streaming service that's going to give you some of the best content from all of these services. But in another way, it definitely feels bad to know that you're paying for a premium streaming service from Warner Media while Warner Media is hiding some of their content behind other paywalls, seemingly arbitrarily. And on that note, let's move into pricing. So it is $15 a month, making HBO Max the most expensive of the prominent streaming services. Unless you're paying for 4K on Netflix, in which case that's actually $1 more than HBO Max. In terms of discounts and deals, if you pre-ordered the service, you get $3 a month off every month for the first year, but that doesn't help you now if you didn't already do that. Depending on your plan with AT&T, you might be eligible to get HBO Max completely for free. And if you already have HBO, then depending on your provider, you might get HBO Max for free. There's more information on that in a link in the description. Apparently, only some services that offer HBO give you the free HBO Max inclusion. So, do I recommend HBO Max? And if I do, who do I recommend it to? Well, for families, it actually depends on what you're looking for. Disney Plus still has a ton more kid-oriented content for half the price. So if you're just looking to entertain the kids while keeping a low budget, Disney Plus is still the better bet. However, if parents and older brothers and sisters and young kids and everyone want to stream, as long as you can afford it, HBO Max is going to offer something for everyone. Everyone who has a way to watch it outside of a Roku or Fire Stick, of course. By my estimations, HBO Max has roughly double the total amount of movies and shows as Disney Plus for about double the price. So if you have a big family and money isn't an issue, then yes, I do recommend HBO Max. Next up, when it comes to casual adult viewers, Netflix is still cheaper by a few dollars and has way more content than Max at the moment, not to mention the fact that most casual adult streamers already have Netflix and don't really necessarily want to switch over to a different service unless it offers something that they really care about. The content on Max might on average be better than what Netflix has, but for most casual viewers, I just don't think that matters that much. So I do not recommend it over Netflix, especially since Netflix is available on nearly every device. It has accessibility, it has brand name, and it has way more content if you're not very picky. Lastly, there's the pop culture junkies, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I do think HBO Max is worth it. It is still pricey, and I understand that that might deter some, but Netflix isn't that much cheaper than HBO Max, and if you're on the fence, maybe try dropping Netflix for a few months and trying out HBO Max. And I do genuinely believe Max has a lot of really, really, really great shows and movies. So if quality matters to you over quantity, HBO Max might just be for you. I do think HBO Max has the potential to be amazing. It has a lot of upcoming projects that are exciting and interesting, and even as of right now, it has a pretty wide variety of great content to choose from, not being as focused as Disney is in being tied to very specific brands. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope it was helpful in deciding whether or not you want to go for HBO Max. If the price and not being on streaming sticks is very important to you, I can completely understand why you would skip this service. And as of right now, it still hasn't found its really hit new original show, so you're not actually missing out on a whole lot if you don't have HBO Max. Personally, I'm enjoying it for what it is, although depending on my finances, if I really need to save money, HBO Max is certainly one of the first things that would go. If this video was helpful and you enjoyed it, please give me a like, a subscribe, a comment down below, and check out my other streaming service videos. Pie Guy Rules, out.